Hi and welcome to TMG Movie Reviews. I'm Rick.
I'm Andrew, and today we're going to be reviewing Scream from 1996, directed by Wes Craven. A film that, if you don't already know it, when it was released, completely redefined the horror genre because it was the first film to reference movies within the movie. So there was discussions about Halloween, about Evil Dead, about Hellraiser, and it's very much a film of its time with that sort of self-referential, sort of hip irony that sort of carried through into the other work by the writer Kevin Williamson, sort of like Dawson's Creek, where people were quoting movies and sort of aware of themselves. Tied up within that is it's a basic slasher movie. There's this guy, Ghostface, is going around killing teenagers and at the same time taunting them with sort of in-depth questions about movie trivia, and the heroine has to stop this killer before he strikes at a party hosted by her boyfriend and his best friend, the maniacal Stu. So I love this film. I've loved it since I saw it, and it still stands as my favourite horror movie of all time, largely because I love the references to other movies that are in there. But let's see what Rick thinks.
Yeah, I also love all the references. I loved the fact that the movie opened. I mean, everyone thought this was going to be like this big sort of Drew Barrymore, starring in Scream. Wes Craven's come back with his new horror, and then they kill her off in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's shocking when she's killed off. I was like, who's going to be their villain? What's
that's it. It's absolutely brilliant. And the one thing that it does is it rewards fans of the genre, because there's questions about other horrors. There's constantly references. There's you see other horrors on the screen. One of my favourite nods to another sort of Wes Craven film was when one of them says that the first Nightmare on Elm Street was good and the rest of them sucked, because obviously Wes Craven didn't do the sequels.
No, he didn't.
So then, and also you get Fonzie, who plays the principal, and he goes out and into the hallway when he hears some banging, and he sees Fred, the janitor, who's wearing a red and green striped jumper.
Yeah, he's also played by Wes Craven.
Yeah.
It's Wes Craven in the costume, yeah. I love that. I think everyone has a favourite character in Scream, and the one that I always loved and related to most was Randy Meeks, played brilliantly by Jamie Kennedy, who's the video store clerk, and I always loved him. It made me for years want to work in a video store, just because I thought it would be really cool to be like him. Yeah, I think he's great, and I think all the performances in this film are really good. They're not your typical slasher horror movies. The characters have brains. They're not stupid. They've got something to say, and they say it very well. The dialogue is really, really well written for a slasher movie. Yeah. And yeah, the references constantly, everyone's quoting movies from Silence of the Lambs to Evil Dead, and it's just great. And there's references to movies I'd never heard of, like The Town That Dreaded Sundown, or at the time I'd never heard of Hellraiser, and there's a little reference about how many Hellraisers there are, and it's great.
One of the things I really liked was that you have they identify all these rules, which Randy does, and then you also you get told basically what goes on in normal horror films, what are the plot points of normal horror films, and then they play on that. So they change some of them, but they keep some of them as well. I think it's such a good way of telling the story, and it doesn't make it any less scary.
No, it's really scary. Yeah. There's that great moment where Neve Campbell's character Sydney says, "Oh, you know, I hate horror movies. You know, some dumb blonde go up the stairs and she's going on out the door." And when Ghostface breaks in to attack her, she does actually go for the front door, but she can't get out, so she has to go up the stairs, and she's sort of aware of this. And that's great. Those the self-referential moments are great as well. And blimey though, I'm watching it again. It has dated in certain ways. I mean, there's things like when she does do that, she goes up the stairs and she can't get a phone line. She has to go on the dial-up internet, and she has like a deaf connection.
Yeah.
And Randy obviously works in a video store, and oh my days, there hasn't been a video store now for a long time.
Well, one of the reasons, I mean, I still think this movie is a brilliant film to watch, especially if you've not seen it. But I do agree that it's because it was so successful, it's been parodied to death. Every single aspect of it has been robbed and put in other horror films. So for that point, if you're only just watching it now for the first time, you might not fully appreciate what it was when it first came out. But it did stand out. It was like it completely redefined the horror genre.
Because they never, for this time, for people of our age and older, will remember that before this there was no such thing as a horror movie that was self-aware, that knew what it was, knew what the codes and the conventions were, and was trying to play with those codes and conventions. And at the point it came, no one had heard of most of the cast. Most of the cast were TV actors, with the exception of Drew Barrymore. Wes Craven hadn't had a great horror film since Nightmare on Elm Street. And you know, it was a massive risk for everyone involved, and a risk that paid off into sequels, which gradually and not quite as good. Scream 2 was great. Scream 3.
The other films after that were still good. I mean, they're definitely watchable, but they're still based off this, and they're still sort of copying some of the things that they did in this film. So I mean, everything's going to be sort of, it's not going to be as good as this original.
No, I think Scary Movie as well. You know, obviously completely parodying this film, and I Know What You Did Last Summer completely. It sort of took away a great deal from sort of the thrills and chills of Scream when you're watching the sequels. You just think, oh, that was, yeah, that's sort of like, that was funny because it was in Scary Movie, and it does throw it out a bit. But if you've never seen Scream and you're experiencing it for the first time, it is a brilliant watch. It's very, very frightening.
Yeah.
Really scary. And the Ghostface killer, oh boy. I mean, when you see him for the first time, that mask, and those black eyes, those dead eyes, and that's a nod to Halloween there, because obviously Michael Myers had, you know, Donald Pleasence says the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, and those eyes just completely blacked out. Yeah, it's very, very, very unnerving.
One of the best things about the film is that it's not just this sort of horror slasher. It's got the aspect of a whodunit, and they also make you aware of this because they say, like, everyone's a suspect. Everybody. You don't need motive. Just you've got to think everybody could do it. And you go throughout the film and you just sort of, I think probably at one point or another, you pretty much name everybody who you think...
Yeah, anyone who wasn't killed, you think, oh God, they're the killer. When the killers do finally emerge and they give their reasons, oh boy, it's
a
really
good shot.
great. It's brilliant sort of reasoning, you know, it's great. I wouldn't recommend this for younger viewers, but for people, especially if you're sort of, I'd like to know what, if you're a teenager now, if you're, what, 17, 18, sort of, what do you think of this film, seeing it for the first time? I'd love to know, because when I saw it for the first time, it blew me away, and I was about 13, 14, so, and I'm obviously a different generation, so I'd love to know what a new generation thinks of Scream, not the sequels, just this one, whether you find it as effective as we found it.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, it's a brilliant horror movie. Wes Craven coming back and just delivering this, like redefining the whole horror genre. Yeah, it's 4.5 easily.
A 5 for me. I love this. I've seen it in every form. I've watched it in the cinema. I've watched it on video, on DVD, on TV, and I love it every time. And yeah, a true masterpiece from a man who knew the genre inside and out and could even still surprise us again. Yeah, a terrific, terrific film. Definitely worth a watch.